There's a really frustratingly familiar picture I want to paint for you today. I want you to really try to visualize this, to put yourself right back in this specific emotional state. Because, let's be honest, almost all of us have been there at some point.
Oh, absolutely. We've all got that one scenario.
Right. So you're at a job that you absolutely cannot stand. And I'm not just talking about, mild annoyance here. We are talking about a deeply, fundamentally toxic environment.
The kind that you feel in your bones.
Yes, exactly. But the real issue, the specific variable that keeps you up at night staring at the ceiling, the thing that gives you that hollow feeling in your stomach on Sunday afternoons, is your boss.
The classic Sunday scaries, but on steroids.
Yeah. Because they micromanage every single keystroke, they hover behind your chair, they critique the tone of your emails, which is just the worst. They send you messages at 2 in the morning and demand immediate replies.
And the physical toll that takes, right? The tension in your shoulders just becomes permanent.
It's totally permanent.
Yeah.
So finally, after months, or maybe even years of this absolute misery, you reach your breaking point. You do the incredibly brave thing. You spend your evenings secretly polishing up the resume, you take those awkward phone interviews from your car during your lunch break, and you actually quit.
It's a moment of pure, unadulterated relief. I mean, the nervous system finally gets to exhale.
Oh, it's the best feeling in the world. You pack up your desk, you drop your key card on the front counter, you walk out of those sliding glass doors, and you feel like you're stepping into a brand new universe. You're a new person.
You escaped.
Right. And for a little while, that feeling sustains you. You land a new role at a different company, the pay is slightly better, the office has, natural light instead of those soul-crushing fluorescent bulbs, the commute is 10 minutes shorter.
Everything looks perfect on paper.
Everything. You go out to dinner with your friends and you tell them that this is it. This is the fresh start you have been desperately needing. But then the honeymoon phase slowly starts to fade. The novelty wears off.
It always does.
It always does. So fast forward 6 months into the new role. You're sitting at your new, slightly nicer desk, and your new manager walks up behind you. And what happens? They do the exact same thing.
Yep. The hovering begins.
The hovering, the micromanaging, the passive-aggressive questioning of your workflow. They might have a totally different name, a different face, they might wear a different tailored suit, but the energetic dynamic is completely identical.
It's a profound, almost dizzying realization when that repetition occurs. You start looking around the room wondering if there's a hidden camera somewhere.
Like you're being pranked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what makes it so fascinating from a psychological and developmental standpoint is that it doesn't just happen in our professional lives. It's a pervasive pattern across all human experiences.
That is the truly wild part. Think about romantic relationships for a second. You finally gather the emotional strength to leave a partner who is completely, emotionally unavailable.
It takes so much work to get to that point.
So much work. You go through the heartbreak, the therapy, the journaling, and you swear to yourself, you make a literal blood oath that you will never date someone like that again. So you actively try to change the variables.
You try to outsmart the pattern.
Right? You change your dating app filters. You start going to different coffee shops on the other side of town. You try to meet completely different archetypes of people. Maybe you previously dated corporate lawyers, so now you date a struggling artist, assuming the personality will be completely different.
Because the packaging is different, right?
Exactly. The packaging is different. You start dating this new person, and they seem so open, so vulnerable, so wonderful at first. But 6 months later, the mask slips. You find yourself having the identical argument you used to have, just in a slightly different apartment.
The script is the same.
It's the exact same script. You feel that exact same cold, dismissive distance from the person sitting across from you. It is utterly exhausting. You change all the external variables, you move cities, you change jobs, you swipe on new profiles, you buy a new wardrobe, and yet you find yourself playing the exact same role in a slightly different stage set.
It feels like a literal glitch in the matrix.
Yes. You start to wonder, is there something inherently wrong with me? Am I cursed? Why does this specific dynamic keep finding me no matter where I hide?
It's the ultimate human frustration. You're experiencing the sheer exhaustion of trying to rearrange the furniture of your life, dragging heavy couches from one corner of the room to the other, only to sit down and realize the room still feels entirely wrong.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
The architecture of the room itself is flawed, but you're obsessing over the upholstery.
Which brings us to the core mission for our discussion today. We're looking at a stack of really fascinating developmental philosophies, psychological frameworks, and source documents that attempt to explain this hidden architecture of our personal reality.
The real structural stuff.
Right. We want to figure out how to fundamentally rewrite the rules of your own life. We're going beyond just rearranging the furniture. We want to tear down the drywall and look at the actual wiring.
And to accomplish that, we have to grasp the fundamental difference between trying to change the reflection in a mirror versus changing the object standing directly in front of it.
A mirror.
Oh.
Okay, that sounds simple enough.
It sounds like a simple riddle, I know. But it's a subtle shift in perspective that alters absolutely everything about how we experience our daily existence, from how we handle traffic to how we build our careers.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the foundational premise of our source material today is going to ask you, the listener, to really bend your conventional understanding of reality.
I was going to stretch your brain a bit.
Definitely. We operate under the assumption that we negotiate with the world using our words, our actions, and, our resumes. But what if the universe doesn't speak our spoken languages at all?
What if it doesn't care about our English, our Spanish, or our Portuguese?
Right. What if the universe communicates entirely, 100%, through a language of frequency and resonance?
That concept of frequency is the core mechanism of the mirror we're talking about. To solve the confusion of the repeating toxic bosses or the repeating unavailable partners, we have to stop looking at the external world as the unyielding cause of our problems.
I have to look inward.
Exactly. The materials we're examining propose a radical, incredibly empowering shift. Your mind, your internal state of being is the root cause. And your everyday life, what you can see, touch, smell, the circumstances you navigate, the bank account balances, the relationship dynamics, is simply the external effect.
So it's just a delayed echo of who you are.
Yes. Think about a physical mirror in your bathroom. There are two elements at play here. You have an image, which is the physical person standing there, and you have a reflection, which is what appears on the glass.
Okay, I'm following.
In this framework, the image is your mentality, your core beliefs, your internal state. The reflection on the glass is your everyday life. Reacting emotionally to your current circumstances, like getting furiously angry at that new micromanaging boss, for example, is the equivalent of looking at the mirror, deciding you hate the tired, stressed reflection staring back at you, and grabbing a sponge to furiously scrub the glass.
Scrubbing away, hoping that if you scrub the glass hard enough, the face looking back at you will somehow magically smile or look rested.
Right, which makes no sense physically.
It sounds so absurd when you put it in those physical terms. I mean, if I saw someone in a public restroom screaming at a mirror and aggressively wiping it with a paper towel to try and change their own haircut, I would think they needed serious psychiatric help.
You call security.
I really would. But that is exactly what we do in our lives.
Yeah.
We hate the reflection, so we attack the glass. The sources use another incredible analogy that I just cannot get out of my head. They compare it to punching a television screen.
Oh, the TV analogy is brilliant.
It's so good. Imagine you're sitting in your living room watching a movie, and the plot takes a really dark turn. The main character does something you hate, or the ending is terribly sad and unjust. What is your reaction?
You don't get violent with the appliance.
No. Do you walk up to the television set, wind up, and punch the glass screen? Do you try to shove your hand inside the monitor to physically grab the pixels, to move the characters around like action figures, to force a different ending?
Doing so would completely ignore how a television functions. The screen is merely a display device. It's just generating the image based on a signal it's receiving from a broadcast tower or a streaming router.
Right. You would look completely unhinged trying to physically manipulate the screen. But that is precisely what trying to change your life strictly from the external conditions looks like.
It's the exact same mechanism.
If you hate your job, and your internal programming is rooted in misery, frustration, and a deep belief that you're always undervalued, just endlessly scrolling job boards and aggressively applying to new roles is like punching the TV screen.
You're trying to change the movie from the outside.
Yes. You have to change the internal programming. You have to find the remote control and change the channel inside your own mind.
Building on that television metaphor, this ties directly into the concept of the universal language of frequency. The universe, or the quantum field of reality, doesn't comprehend the English sentence, "I want a new car," or "I want a better boss."
It doesn't hear the words.
It doesn't care about the vocabulary. It reads the underlying frequency you're emitting while you speak those words. It's like a biological Wi-Fi signal. If you're asking for a new car, but your internal dialogue, your background hum, is vibrating with the thought, "I'm always broke, money is incredibly hard to get, poor me, I'm a permanent victim of the economy," You are emitting a frequency of lack.
You're broadcasting on the lack channel.
Exactly. And the universe is essentially a giant yes machine. That's the terrifying and beautiful part of this entire philosophy. It doesn't judge the request, it just confirms it.
It confirms the frequency, not the vocabulary.
So you say the words, I want financial abundance. But your nervous system is bathing in the feeling of lack, victimhood, and financial despair. The universe reads that frequency of lack and simply says, yes, I agree. Here is more lack.
Yeah.
Here are more circumstances, more unexpected bills, more overlooked promotions that will perfectly match your internal conviction of feeling broke. It's a closed feedback loop.
Wait, I need to challenge this mechanically, because this is where people, including myself honestly, get really tripped up. Let's look at a mundane, everyday frustration.
Sure, lay it on me.
If I'm stuck in traffic on my way to work, I'm bumper to bumper, I am definitely going to be late for a massive meeting, and I get furious. I'm gripping the steering wheel, my heart rate is elevated, I'm cursing at the cars ahead of me. If the universe is a yes machine, am I literally ordering more traffic for my future? Am I manifesting future gridlock just by being annoyed in the present?
It's a really valid fear.
Because that feels like a terrifying amount of pressure.
Yeah.
Like I can never feel a single negative emotion ever again without ruining my life.
What's fascinating here is how the source material addresses that exact anxiety. They introduce a concept called the Law of Accumulation. It's crucial to understand that one single angry thought about traffic doesn't instantly materialize a 10-car pileup in front of you the very next day.
Okay, phew. That's a relief.
Reality doesn't bend quite that quickly, which is actually a built-in safety mechanism. If every passing thought instantly manifested, we'd destroy ourselves by lunchtime.
I would have accidentally manifested a dinosaur eating my car by now.
Exactly. Instead, the mechanism is based on accumulation. Think of your emotional reactions like coins and your subconscious mind as a piggy bank.
A piggy bank of things we don't want.
Right. Every single time you complain, every time you sit in your car and seethe with anger about the traffic, every time you participate in toxic gossip about a coworker, every time you complain about the weather ruining your day, you're taking a shiny little coin of negative frequency and dropping it into the piggy bank of things you do not want.
Just plink, plink, plink.
You're making small, incremental, daily deposits into a savings account of frustration.
And what happens to a physical piggy bank? Eventually it fills up to the brim.
It fills up, the pressure mounts, and eventually the structural integrity gives way.
Yeah.
It breaks. And when it breaks, all of that stored frustration, all of those accumulated coins of negative frequency explode into your physical reality.
It shatters.
You get a sudden cascade of reasons to be frustrated. Your car breaks down, you get audited, you sprain your ankles seemingly out of nowhere. But it wasn't out of nowhere. You funded that explosion one minor complaint at a time over months or years.
It's like we're funding our own misery.
We are. Your reticular activating system, that bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the important stuff gets through, has been trained by your daily complaints to only look for things that validate your frustration.
That is a staggering way to look at our daily habits. It means every casual complaint is an investment in future misery. We think we're just blowing off steam, but we're actually building a pressure cooker.
We are building the bomb we're going to step on.
But let me push back on this again, because life is not just traffic jams and annoying coworkers.
Yeah.
Real devastating, traumatic things occur. People lose loved ones, they experience systemic oppression, they face profound abuse.
Absolutely. The heavy stuff.
Right. If reacting to the external world just builds up this toxic piggy bank, how do we respond when genuinely bad things happen? Because if we aren't supposed to react, how do we navigate genuine hardship without falling into the trap of toxic positivity, where we just plaster a fake smile on our faces and pretend the pain doesn't exist?
That is perhaps the most crucial pivot the documents make. They draw a very hard line between processing pain and adopting a victim mentality. When we face severe adversity, whether it's a global economic collapse, a terrible upbringing, systemic issues, or deep personal betrayals, the default human reaction is to adopt the identity of the victim.
We point the finger outward.
We do. We blame the government, our parents, our exes, the economy. And let me be perfectly clear, as the sources emphatically are. The trauma is entirely valid. The difficult pasts are real. The pain is not an illusion, and feeling it is a biological necessity for healing.
Right. Nobody in these texts is saying just smile through a tragedy or good vibes only. That kind of spiritual bypassing is actually incredibly damaging.
It's toxic. The danger is not in the pain.
Yeah.
The trap is holding on to that pain as your primary identity long after the event has passed. When you let the trauma define who you are, When your entire self-concept is wrapped up in being the person to whom terrible things were done, you freeze yourself in time.
You become a monument to your own bad experiences.
You neurologically wire your brain to remain in the past. Your amygdala, the fear center of the brain, stays constantly activated. You become completely stuck, viewing every new interaction through the lens of past betrayals.
You essentially hand over your creative power to the ghost of your past. The source material offers this really powerful framework about viewing trauma as a tool rather than a label.
The tool analogy is incredibly practical.
It is. Instead of saying, I am a broken person because of this trauma, you can make a conscious, albeit really difficult choice. You can say, this terrible thing happened to me. It burned my life to the ground. But I am not the fire. I am going to take the unique insight, the deep empathy, the resilience, and the profound understanding I gained from surviving that fire, and I'm going to forge it into a tool.
A very specific tool.
Right. It's like taking the heavy, jagged iron of your past and hammering it into a very specific key that only you can wield to unlock doors for others who are going through the exact same thing.
That shifts the narrative from passive recipient to active creator. It's about moving from the passenger seat, where life is just happening to you, to the driver's seat. It's recognizing that while you certainly didn't consciously choose the hardship, you possess the absolute free will to decide whether you'll let it dictate the remaining chapters of your story.
I really appreciate how the source material framing this uses a video game analogy. It translates a very dense philosophical concept into something incredibly tangible. Think of your life as a role-playing video game.
Everyone can picture that.
Exactly. Your current circumstances, no matter how brutal or difficult they are, represent your current level. Now, some people spawn into the game on easy mode, with plenty of resources, supportive guides, and a full health bar. Some people spawn on a brutally difficult level with almost nothing. We don't necessarily know the cosmic reasoning behind why a soul chooses the level it chooses, but the struggles you are facing right now, the debt, the illness, the loneliness, they're not a cosmic punishment.
They're just the mechanics of the game.
They're the dragon at the end of the law.
And a game without a dragon, without an obstacle to overcome, isn't much of a game. It offers no opportunity for skill acquisition or character development. You'd be bored to tears in 5 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, that hits the nail on the head. If you just sit there, dropping your controller on the floor, crying and complaining to anyone who will listen that there is an unfair dragon on your screen, you're never going to defeat it. You'll just be stuck in that same dungeon level forever, getting burned by the same dragon over and over.
Just endlessly respawning in the same miserable cave.
Right. You have to learn its patterns, upgrade your skills, and defeat the dragon to level up. Every obstacle is quite literally an opportunity to unlock the next stage, where the landscapes are more beautiful, the colors are brighter, and the rewards are higher. Will there be dragons on the next level? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But you will have better armor. You will be a stronger player.
To defeat that dragon, it helps immensely to understand the true nature of the reality you're currently experiencing. The documents note a principle that completely reframes how we should look at our current problems. They suggest that our current life, the physical reality we're sitting in this exact second, is actually a delayed projection of our past states of consciousness.
A delayed projection. Walk me through the mechanics of that, because that sounds intense.
Think about looking up at the stars at night. When you see a distant star, you're not seeing it as it exists right now. You're seeing the light that left that star millions of years ago. The star itself might have already burned out and died, but you're just now receiving the visual data.
The Starlight Analogy, that's beautiful.
The reality you are experiencing today works similarly. It's the materialized result of the thoughts, feelings, assumptions, and beliefs you held weeks, months, or even years ago. So when you look around at your bank account or your job and you do not like your current circumstances, you have to recognize that you're looking at old footage.
Old footage.
The reality is already dead, in a sense. It's the delayed echo of your past self finally hitting the screen.
That concept is unbelievably freeing. It means you can emotionally detach. You don't have to take the current obstacle so personally because it's just a ghost of who you used to be. It's just the old movie playing out its final lingering scenes. If you truly internalize that it's just old footage, you can stop fighting the screen, stop punching the TV, and redirect all that wasted energy into writing a completely new script for the future.
That realization naturally leads to the most vital question of this entire philosophy. If we've successfully stopped reacting to the old movie and we want to program a new one, how do we actually author that script?
We have to know exactly where we're going. We need a destination. And this is where the source material gets delightfully confrontational.
It doesn't pull any punches here.
No, it really doesn't. It points out a harsh truth. Most adults walking around today do not actually know themselves. They think they do, but what they really know are their conditioned habits and their trauma responses. We're so terrified of our own shadows, of the unhealed pain lurking beneath the surface, that we numb ourselves constantly.
We just pile on the distractions.
We cover up the internal silence with a relentless, deafening barrage of noise. We binge-watch animated movies. We consume sugary sodas to spike our dopamine. We scroll endlessly on social media feeds we don't even care about. We fill our calendars with superficial social obligations, all to avoid sitting in an empty room in total silence with our own minds.
Because sitting in silence strips away the distractions and forces you to face the void where your vision for your life should be. To program a new reality, you must define a clear, compelling vision of your ideal self. You can't simply run away from what you dislike. I mean, running away from a bear in the woods doesn't mean you know how to get home. You must be moving deliberately toward a specific, chosen destination.
Think about getting into your car, turning on the GPS, and just scream at the dashboard, "Take me somewhere good, anywhere but here, just get me away from this town."
The GPS is going to be very confused.
The GPS is a highly advanced satellite-linked piece of technology, but it cannot help you. It needs coordinates, it needs address, you have to tell it where you want to go. Now, the material clarifies a point that relieves a lot of pressure. You don't necessarily need to know every single granular detail of the future. If you want a new career, you might not know the exact job title yet or the specific name of the corporation, but you need to know what they call the feeling coordinates.
The feeling coordinates are the true address. The subconscious mind doesn't process alphanumeric addresses. It processes emotion.
Yes, you need to know that you want to feel a sense of profound freedom. You want to feel the deep satisfaction of helping others. You want to feel the creative autonomy of being your own boss. You lock those specific emotional frequencies into the GPS. And once you have those coordinates, you have to initiate a process the source calls identity shifting.
This is a monumental pivot in the philosophy. It distinguishes this approach from basic self-help. It's not just about adopting a few new superficial habits like deciding to drink more water or read 10 pages a day. It's about making a fundamental identity-level choice every single morning the moment your eyes open.
An identity level choice, let's make that concrete. How does that actually play out in a morning routine?
Let's use physical fitness as an example. Think about someone who wants to be physically fit, but their identity is still rooted in being out of shape. The person who is merely trying to be fit wakes up at 6 a.m. and has a massive, exhausting internal debate.
The negotiations begin.
Exactly. Should I go to the gym? It's raining outside. My bed is so warm. I had a hard day yesterday. Maybe I'll just get a heavy breakfast sandwich today and start my diet again on Monday. That is the internal monologue of a fractured identity.
It's totally exhausting.
But a fit person, someone who has fully embodied the identity of an athlete, doesn't debate eating junk food for breakfast. They don't negotiate with the rain. They wake up, they hydrate, and they move their body. Why? Because that is who they are. It's not a chore. It's the baseline reality of their existence. It requires zero willpower.
They don't have to expend cognitive energy fighting themselves because the behavior is completely aligned with their self-concept. But getting from the debating stage to the automatic stage feels like climbing Mount Everest without oxygen. Why does identity shifting feel so viscerally difficult? Why do we fight our own progress so hard, even when we consciously know the new habits will make us happier?
If we connect this to the bigger picture and look at it through the lens of human evolutionary biology and neurology, the resistance makes perfect sense. The human brain is an incredibly sophisticated, ancient survival machine, and it operates on a very simple binary rule.
Safety versus danger.
Right. The known, no matter how miserable or painful, is categorized as safe because you have survived it thus far. The unknown, no matter how beautiful, abundant, or healthy it might be, is categorized as a potential threat.
That is wild. The brain categorizes the unknown as unsafe. So even if my known is a toxic job that gives me panic attacks and a bank account that is perpetually overdrawn, my brain prefers it because it knows the exact survival mechanics for that specific misery.
Precisely. I mean, that's exactly the mechanism. You haven't died yet in that miserable state, so the primitive part of your brain considers it a biological success story. When you attempt to shift your identity, you are stepping out of the cave and into the unknown darkness. And the brain will trigger every alarm bell it has. The amygdala flares up. It'll flood your system with cortisol and feed you a million totally rational-sounding excuses not to act.
The sources use this incredibly relatable example of wanting to be a singer. Let's say you finally decide, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to an open mic night. You sign up, you get dressed, you drive to the venue, and suddenly your brain starts screaming at you.
Abort mission.
Don't walk into that bar. Don't sing at that open mic. People will laugh at you. You haven't practiced enough. You're going to look foolish. Let's just go back to the car, drive home, and watch a movie where it's safe and warm.
The ego is fighting desperately, using shame and fear as weapons to keep you inside the familiar box.
The alarm system is deafening in those moments. And the only way to quiet that alarm system is through decisive physical action. Action is the physical bridge between the past self and the new self. You can't think your way out of that fear.
You can't just journal about it.
You can't journal your way out of it. You have to physically walk onto the stage, hold the microphone with shaking hands, feel your heart pounding in your throat, and sing. You have to provide empirical proof to your nervous system that stepping into the unknown will not result in physical death. You take the action, the brain realizes no lions jumped out of the bushes to eat you, and the alarm gets just a little bit quieter the next time. It's brilliant. But let's say you're doing everything right. You're taking the action. You're walking onto the stage. You're doing the grueling inner work. You're eating the healthy breakfast. But the external results haven't shown up yet in your physical reality.
You're in the void.
You're standing in this agonizing void between the death of the old life and the birth of the new life. How do you avoid slipping back into the comfort of doubt and fear when the physical proof just isn't there yet?
Navigating that void requires cultivating a state of what the documents call absolute certainty. Bending reality to match your new identity requires wanting something deeply, holding the vision clearly, but completely letting go of the how. It's the total detachment from the mechanics of delivery.
This brings up another highly relatable everyday scenario from the sources that illustrates this beautifully. Think about ordering food delivery on a smartphone app.
We've all done it.
We've all done it. You open the app, you decide you want a specific meal, you pay for it, and you get the confirmation screen. The transaction is complete. Now, what do? Do you spend the next 45 minutes pacing your living room, crying, wringing your hands, wondering if the food actually exists in the universe? Do you stress over the exact street route the driver's going to take, panicking that they might hit a red light or take a wrong turn?
Doing that would drive you to the brink of insanity.
It would. But you don't do any of that. You know the food is coming. The order is in the system. So what do you do with that waiting time? You set the table. You get the plates out, you pour a glass of water, you prepare your physical environment for its arrival because you have absolute certainty that it is on its way. You behave like a person who is about to eat.
You fully inhabit the state of being of someone whose desire is already fulfilled, even though the physical evidence hasn't arrived at the front door yet.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to push back on this, though, because the scale feels completely different. It's incredibly easy to be certain about a pizza. There's a whole corporate infrastructure, GPS tracking, and a refund policy guaranteeing that pizza. But how in the world do you apply that same level of nonchalant certainty to preparing for a completely unknown, massive life change, like moving to a new country without a solid plan?
The material actually provides a profound, real-world example of exactly this kind of radical certainty, which we might call burning the boats. Imagine someone deciding they're going to move to a tropical country. They don't have a job lined up there. They don't even have a specific city picked out. They just have the internal coordinate. I am moving out of the country to somewhere tropical. Now, how do they set the table for that?
They can't just buy a plane ticket if they don't know where they're going.
Exactly. They don't just sit on their current couch and wait for an email with a job offer. They start acting like the person who is moving tomorrow. They go online and announce they're selling their belongings. They sell their extensive book collection. They sell their favorite furniture. They give away their houseplants.
They literally dismantle their current life, destroying their safety nest before the new life has even materialized.
Yes, and that is the terrifying magic of the mechanism. By definitively making space, by creating a physical and energetic vacuum in their life, they prompt the universe to fill it. Nature abhors a vacuum. When you empty a space, something must rush in to occupy it. They are operating with the absolute certainty of the food delivery app, but on a macro, life-altering scale.
It's an extreme level of trust.
They're signaling to reality, I know the move is coming, so I must prepare the physical space for it. And according to the philosophy we're exploring, when you definitively make space for the new reality, you trigger a shift in your selective attention. You start noticing opportunities, conversations, and resources that were always there, but your brain previously filtered out because you weren't ready for them. The circumstances seem to miraculously arrange themselves to fill the vacuum you created with your certainty.
But let's be totally honest here. Setting the table for an unknown future by selling all your safety nets, by burning the boats, is inherently terrifying. It goes against every survival instinct we have. How do we deal with the intense, visceral fear, the actual physical shaking that rises up when we try to change our identity and dismantle our known world?
We have to fundamentally redefine our relationship with fear. We culturally treat fear as if it's a monster hiding under the bed, an antagonistic force actively trying to destroy us and keep us small. But the documents suggest fear is not a monster at all. It's simply a boundary line. It's the geographic border between the known territory of your past and the uncharted territory of your future.
I love that framing because people fall into this massive trap regarding fear. I see this all the time, and I've absolutely done it myself. People think they need to wait until they are no longer scared to take the leap. They tell themselves, I'll start the business when I feel totally confident in my business plan. I'll leave this toxic relationship when I'm no longer afraid of being alone.
And that day never comes.
Never. Let me be emphatic about this based on everything we are reading. That day will never, ever come. You will never wake up magically devoid of fear regarding the unknown. You cannot wait for the fear to vanish on its own. You have to move through the fear. You have to take it with you.
The fear is the portal itself. You have to step into the center of it to reach the other side.
The sources offer two really powerful visual analogies for this that I want to share because they make it so clear. First, imagine that unfaced fears are like carrying a heavy backpack full of jagged, heavy rocks. Every single thing you want to do but avoid out of fear, starting the YouTube channel, having the hard conversation with your spouse, taking the solo trip, adds another heavy rock to the backpack. You're walking around your daily life exhausted, weighed down by the cumulative burden of your own avoidance. It drains your energy.
It's exhausting just holding on to it.
But every time you finally face a fear, you reach into the backpack, pull out a heavy rock, and throw it away. You literally become lighter, more agile, more energetic.
The burden of avoidance is always heavier than the burden of action. And the second analogy.
The second is about cliff jumping. Imagine you're on vacation, standing at the edge of a high, rocky cliff over a beautiful, crystal-clear swimming hole. There's a line of people waiting to jump. Everyone in the line is terrified. They're looking down at the water, stressing out, wondering if they should back out. Their hearts are pounding, they're sweating. The anticipation is agonizing.
We've all been in that line in one way or another.
Right. But then you step up to the edge, you take a deep breath, and you jump. The free fall is intense. But the second you hit the water, you realize it's completely safe, the water feels amazing, and the experience is incredibly fun. You swim to the edge, and you look back up at the line of terrified people still shivering on the rock, and you yell, "Come on, it's amazing." You realize in that moment that all the suffering, all the agony was entirely manufactured in the waiting line.
The suffering happens in the resistance, not in the action itself. But this raises a crucial, practical question regarding outcomes. What if you jump and the water is much colder and shallower than you expected? What if you face the fear, you take the massive leap, and you fail spectacularly? What if you ask the person out and they laugh and say no? What if you launch the business, put your life savings into it, and no one buys a single product?
Does that mean the universe said no to your frequency? Did the mirror break?
Not at all. The essential insight here is the principle that rejection is redirection. Even if facing the fear does not yield the exact specific result your ego desperately wanted, the act of walking through the portal fundamentally changes you. It expands your psychological and energetic capacity. It creates a larger vessel.
So it wasn't a failure, it was training.
Exactly. The intelligence of the universe might be saying, not this specific person, because they would ultimately drain you, and I am preparing someone better suited for your new frequency. Not this business model, because it would have trapped you in a cycle of stress, and I have a much bigger, more aligned path. By facing the fear and surviving the rejection, you expand your capacity to receive the larger blessings that are coming, rather than clinging to the small, inadequate outcome your ego was demanding.
Okay, so you're doing the work. You're dropping the rocks of fear out of your backpack. You're jumping off the cliff. You're actively shifting your identity and becoming this new person. As you do all this heavy internal lifting, something incredibly startling and honestly a bit terrifying starts to happen in your external world. Your current life begins to rapidly collapse.
It's the demolition phase, the falling apart, and it is an entirely necessary part of the architectural process.
which feels so unbelievably counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You're doing all this positive personal growth, you're meditating, you're facing your fears, you're being brave, and suddenly everything goes wrong. You lose your job, your friend group ostracizes you, your car breaks down. But the material stress is that this collapse is a feature of the system, not a bug. Your environment must fall apart.
It's a structural inevitability. If we return to the mirror analogy we established earlier, you have fundamentally changed the object standing in front of the mirror. You have shifted your identity and your frequency. The mirror must now shatter the old reflection to build the new one that matches your new state.
The old reflection literally can't hold the new image.
Right. This means friends who bonded with you purely over mutual complaints, over gossiping about others, or over destructive coping mechanisms like binge drinking will naturally start to fade away.
They'll feel the energetic mismatch. They'll say, come on, let's just go complain about the boss. Let's just go get wasted on a Tuesday. Let's just do what we always do. And when you calmly say no, because that is no longer who you are, the bridge burns. They might even get angry at you, calling you arrogant or saying you've changed.
You have changed, and a romantic partner might suddenly leave because the entire dynamic of the relationship was built on your old insecurities and codependency. A long-term job might abruptly end, pushing you out of a comfortable rut. To the outside observer, and even to your own panicked ego, it looks like a crisis. It looks like you're ruining your life.
But you're actually saving it.
Exactly. The sources argue this is a cause for profound celebration. It's the definitive physical proof that the mirror is updating its reflection. You can't construct a sprawling, beautiful new mansion on a plot of land that is still occupied by a crumbling, rotting shack. The shack must be demolished first.
And while that intense demolition is happening, while the dust is flying and the wrecking ball is swinging, you have to support yourself with radical self-care. This is where the material gets very stern, and I appreciate the tough love. It argues that you cannot beg infinite intelligence for an abundant, beautiful life, for a loving relationship, or for deep wealth, while you simultaneously treat your own physical body and mind like a toxic waste dump.
There has to be absolute congruence between what you ask for externally and how you treat yourself internally. The external world mirrors your self-treatment.
This point is so brutally honest. You cannot ask the universe for a loving, attentive partner to cherish you, while you feed yourself ultra-processed junk food all day, sleep 4 hours a night, refuse to exercise, and stand in front of the bathroom mirror calling yourself ugly, stupid, and unlovable. You are sending entirely mixed signals. Think about a houseplant. If you bought a beautiful, expensive, delicate orchid, would you pour a can of sugary soda into its soil every morning and lock it in a dark closet?
Of course not. It would wither and die in a matter of days.
What if you adopted a brand new, innocent puppy? Would you feed it garbage out of the trash can and scream vicious insults at it all day? No. You would be horrified by that behavior. You would call animal control on someone who did that. So why in the world do we normalize doing it to ourselves? Why do you treat your own biological vessel, the only vehicle you have to experience this reality, worse than a houseplant?
This raises an important question about the concept of self-worth as a frequency. How can we possibly expect the world to treat us with high value, to bring us premium opportunities, respect, and deep love if our daily habits broadcast to the universe that we don't value ourselves at all? The internal and external must align. We must align our words, our thoughts, and our physical habits with the frequency of our ideal self.
And aligning your words doesn't just mean standing in the mirror and saying nice affirmations for 5 minutes. It means refusing to engage in the old toxic patterns throughout your entire day. It means being impeccable with your speech. When your coworkers are gathered in the break room, tearing apart another colleague behind their back or complaining about how terrible the economy is and how everyone is doomed, you do not nod along just to be polite. You do not agree with the negative small talk just to fit in with the tribe.
Because your subconscious mind, the mechanism taking all these notes, doesn't have a sense of humor. It doesn't understand sarcasm, irony, or just trying to fit in. If you nod along and say, yeah, money is so impossible to make right now, everything is terrible, your frequency has just broadcast a massive confirmed request for financial struggle.
The universe says, got it, more struggle coming right up.
Exactly. The universe doesn't care that you were just being polite to a coworker. You have to mentally, quietly, firmly reject those statements. You don't necessarily have to start an argument, but internally you must silently declare, I do not accept that reality for myself. That is their reflection, not mine.
So we've cleared away the old toxic environment. We've optimized our habits. Our words are impeccable. We're taking care of our physical vessel. How do we actually tune in to the exact new reality we want? How do we dial it in amidst all the noise?
To understand the mechanics of this, we have to look at how the documents describe the nature of reality itself. They lean into a framework that mirrors certain theories in quantum physics. They break down the concept that reality is not a single, fixed, solid, predetermined timeline. Instead, they suggest that infinite versions of your life exist simultaneously right now as pure potential.
Infinite realities. It sounds like a sci-fi movie concept, but let's ground it in how it actually affects our psychology.
Imagine it as an infinite spectrum of broadcast channels. There is a version of reality playing out on one channel right now where you're thriving, radiantly healthy, deeply in love, and creatively fulfilled. There is simultaneously a version of reality on a different channel where you're struggling, sick, broke, and alone. All possibilities exist in the field as potential states.
And the deciding factor of which reality we physically experience, which channel we actually watch on the television screen of our lives, is us. We are the antenna.
Exactly. Our core beliefs act as the tuning mechanism of that radio antenna. If you have a deep underlying core belief that says, there is fundamentally something wrong with me, I am unlovable, your antenna is tuned to a very specific low frequency. It will reach out into the field of infinite possibilities and tune your life into the exact reality that provides physical proof of that belief.
It hunts for evidence to prove you right.
Yes. It will tune into the reality of chronic illness, or the reality of crushing financial struggle, or the reality of constant romantic rejection, because those physical manifestations prove and validate your internal belief that something is wrong with you. Your brain's reticular activating system will literally blind you to opportunities that contradict this belief, ensuring you only see what confirms your unworthiness.
To change your life, you can't just try harder at your job. You have to consciously reach out and switch the dial on the antenna. You have to fundamentally change the core belief to change the station.
And undertaking that kind of massive internal rewiring requires connecting to a source greater than your conscious panic ego.
The sources spend a lot of time detailing this connection. They talk about the absolute necessity of establishing a daily, active relationship with a broader intelligence. Some might call it source, some call it divine intelligence, the universe, or the quantum field. The terminology doesn't matter as much as the function, but they make a highly critical distinction that separates this from wishful thinking. This source is not a cosmic genie waiting to grant your superficial wishes. You don't just rub a magic lamp and say, I want a red sports car and $1 million.
It's much more accurately understood as an incredibly powerful internal quantum computer that you have access to,
Sure.
which helps resequence your own programming.
Right. And you engage this quantum computer through a specific two-step process. First, you ask for guidance. You pray, or you set a deep intention, asking for clarity, strength, and transformation. But the second step is where almost everyone fails in modern society. You have to sit in total silent meditation to actually listen for the answer. You can't just bark a list of demands at the universe and then immediately put your headphones in, turn on a loud music track, and drown out the silence.
You have to create the space for the answer to land.
You have to create the quiet space to listen for the intuitive downloads. The sudden, irrational urges to call a specific person you haven't spoken to in years, or to read a certain book that catches your eye in a store, or to take a completely different route to work where you happen to run into someone who changes your career.
So when we synthesize all of this, what does it mean for how we actually approach our desires?
So what does this all mean? It means a complete 180-degree inversion of how most people operate. It means you stop begging the universe to give you the red sports car. Because if you get the car without changing, you won't be able to keep it. Instead, you start asking the universe to help you become the person who naturally, inevitably acquires that car. You ask to be transformed into the identity that matches the desire.
You're asking for the internal software upgrade, not the external hardware toy. Because if you get the external toy without the internal upgrade, the system crashes. This is exactly why we see statistics showing that lottery winners so often go bankrupt within a few years. Their physical 3D reality changed overnight. They suddenly had millions of dollars. But their internal frequency, their identity as someone who struggles with money, who fears lack, who doesn't know how to manage wealth, remained exactly the same.
The mirror couldn't hold the fake reflection.
The mirror eventually corrected itself to match the unchanged internal image, and they lost the money to return to their baseline frequency.
Which perfectly sets up the final crowning step of this entire process. Only after doing all this heavy internal lifting, the painful identity shifting, the facing of deep-seated fears, the demolishing of the toxic environment, the connecting to infinite intelligence in silence, only then do we arrive at the shiny tool that everyone talks about constantly on social media: visualization.
And this sequence explains precisely why so much basic, quick-fix self-help advice fails people so miserably. People see a 60-second video online telling them that visualization alone will magically change their life without any other effort.
Just close your eyes. Picture $1 million in your bank account. Think positive thoughts, and it will appear tomorrow.
That is a fundamental misunderstanding of the mechanics. If you sit on your couch and visualize a perfect life for 10 minutes, and then you spend the remaining 23 hours and 50 minutes of your day gossiping, eating poorly, complaining about your boss, reacting to traffic, and feeling like a victim, the visualization is utterly powerless. It's a single drop of clear water in an ocean of toxic sludge. The foundation must be built first through the rigorous discipline of everything we've discussed today.
But once that foundation of a new identity is solidified, visualization acts as the final polish. It is the bow on the package. It accelerates the process. And the material explains the scientifically grounded proper way to do it, which is not just passive, lazy daydreaming. It is intense, active mental rehearsal.
It requires fully engaging the nervous system as if the desired event is happening in real time, right now.
You have to use all 5 senses to create a virtual reality in your mind. Let's go back to the new car example. Don't just picture a generic car from the outside, like you're looking at a magazine ad. You have to mentally get inside it. Feel the heavy, satisfying thud of the car door closing, shutting out the outside noise. Feel the specific, bumpy texture of the stitching on the leather steering wheel under your thumbs. Breathe in deeply through your nose and smell that distinct, unmistakable new car scent of leather and clean plastic.
You're really building the world in your mind.
Every detail. Hear the specific bass notes of your favorite song playing on the premium speakers. Look out the windshield and see the specific trees in your neighborhood as you drive through it. And most importantly, the crucial ingredient. Feel the emotional relief, the deep, swelling gratitude in the center of your chest, of the wish finally being fulfilled.
By combining a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you're essentially tricking the biological body into believing the future has already happened. The body cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined. And the timing of when you do this practice is absolutely critical to its success. Doing this highly detailed sensory visualization immediately in the morning when you first wake up and right before you fall asleep at night leverages your natural biology.
Because of the shift in brainwave states, right? Let's get into the mechanics of that.
Yes. Throughout the day, when you're stressed and analytical, you're in a beta brainwave state. Your neocortex is highly active, scanning for threats and analyzing data. But during those twilight, groggy moments of waking up and falling asleep, your brain slows down and enters the alpha and sometimes theta brainwave state. In this state, the critical, logical, arguing part of your mind, the ego that says, this is impossible, you don't have the money for a car, is temporarily offline or bypassed.
The guard is asleep at the gate.
Exactly. The doorway to the subconscious mind is wide open. By dropping these high-definition, emotionally charged sensory experiences into the subconscious during the alpha state, you signal to the body that the event is a memory of something that has already happened. The nervous system aligns with it as a biological fact, locking in the new frequency at a cellular level.
It's literally hacking your own biology and neurology to rewrite your external reality. It is absolutely incredible when you understand the mechanics behind it. Now, as we reach the end of this exploration, I want to share a profound final image the source material uses to tie all of these dense concepts together. It is an analogy that completely reframed how I think about my place in the universe, and it strips away a lot of the ego involved in this process.
The disco ball analogy, it's a brilliant, unifying piece of imagery.
Imagine the universe, or infinite intelligence, or the source code of reality, as a massive, infinitely large disco ball. And this magnificent disco ball is made up of millions and billions of tiny, individual, square mirrors.
You, the listener, navigating your life right now, are one of those little square mirrors.
You are not separate from the disco ball. You are not some isolated, lonely entity standing on the ground looking up at the source, begging it for scraps. You are physically made of it. You are a piece of the source, experiencing reality from one incredibly unique, specific angle. You are reflecting a specific sliver of light that no other mirror on that massive ball can reflect in exactly the same way. Your perspective is singular and necessary for the whole to be complete.
It completely dismantles the illusion of separation. If you are a mirror on the disco ball, you are the universe experiencing itself in human form.
And that broader reflection completely changes the game. It means that fulfilling your ultimate human potential isn't about desperately forcing the universe to give you things. It isn't about clever manipulation or greedy acquisition or fighting your way to the top. It is simply about deconstructing the fears, the toxic habits, the traumas, and the limiting beliefs that are currently covering your specific mirror in dirt and grime. You already possess a radiant, abundant essence because you are literally made of the source. The work is not learning how to be great or adding things to yourself. It is an unlearning. It is a profound unburdening of everything that makes you small.
You're simply wiping the accumulated dirt off your square of the disco ball so the light can naturally, effortlessly shine through you.
So as we wrap up our analysis today, I want to leave you with a final thought. A question to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, as you drive to work or as you sit in your living room tonight. We spend so much of our lives fighting our own deep, authentic desires, suppressing them, thinking they are selfish or impossible or too grand for someone like us. But if you are a piece of the universe, if you are a vital mirror on that disco ball, then your deepest, most persistent, most joyful desires were not just random, selfish thoughts. They were actually put there by the universe itself, acting as a blueprint for how it specifically wants to experience life through you. The universe wants to experience the joy of singing that song, the thrill of building that business, the warmth of loving that specific person through your unique biological and emotional perspective.
The desire is the universe knocking on the door from the inside, asking to be let out into physical reality.
So here is the provocative thought I want to leave you with. What would happen? What would the landscape of your life actually look like tomorrow morning if you finally stopped telling the universe no?
It's been an incredibly thought-provoking discussion today.
It really has. Thank you so much for joining us and spending your time with us today. Go wipe the dirt off your mirror, face your dragon with everything you've got, and we will see you next time.